In Novosibirsk, there is a massive fire at the microelectronics plant, while in occupied Crimea, the largest oil terminal has been burning for 2 days straight. Putin calls the invasion of Ukraine the right and timely decision and urges not to slow down the pace. Belarus is quadrupling its gasoline supplies to Russia to quell the fuel crisis. Russian war correspondent Romanov is shocking everyone. The life expectancy of an assault soldier is 12 days. The media are discussing reports about Putin's sons being hidden under different surnames. And the European Union is preparing a reparations loan of 140 billion euros for Ukraine. Hello, my name is Yulia Kokan, and right now, here are the top stories. But first, please like this video and subscribe to our channel so we don't lose touch with you on YouTube. In Novosibirsk, Russia, a massive fire broke out at the ZAO solder plant factory. This enterprise produces electronics and microchips and also participates in the country's defense industry complex, which means it solders components for weaponry, radio communications, and radio electronics. The emergency services are working at the scene. Russians, you can write and tell us what happened over there.
That's it. Now, open flames are already bursting out from the left side. And over here, it started too. That's it. It's reached temperature. That's absolutely it. It is impossible to put it out at all right now, any longer.
Meanwhile, in occupied Crimea, in Feodosia, the largest oil terminal has been burning for 2 days straight. Meanwhile, in occupied Crimea, in Feodosia, the largest oil terminal has been burning for 2 days straight. According to satellite images, the smoke from the fire stretches for 21 kilometers. The fire has been recorded at 2 separate locations. The most intense blaze is observed in the northeastern part of the oil depot. It is reported that the fire has spread to other storage tanks. Let me remind you, the fire at the oil depot in Feodosia started after a Ukrainian drone attack during the night of October 5th to 6th.
There are 2 major fire sources at the Feodosia oil terminal. Here is the latest photo for comparison. This is what the storage tanks at the oil depot looked like after burning for a week in October 2024. At that time, after the attack, the fire engulfed 12 fuel tanks, 8 of which were completely destroyed by fire. In addition to this, buildings on the terminal grounds were also burned down.
This terminal produces 12 million tons of petroleum products annually and can simultaneously store up to 250,000 tons of product. A strike on this terminal worsens the fuel crisis on the occupied peninsula. The situation with supplies at gas stations remains critical.
It's really hard without gasoline, to be honest.
No, we have everything we need. Buy coupons or fuel cards. Right now, you see, it's only available at the thermal power plants.
That's normal.
Are they calculating it? There's no gasoline, we're working on diesel, and the price has gone up a bit, yes.
Well, as for what will happen next, people are just stocking up for tomorrow, for the day after. They're thinking ahead, so to speak.
Well, I wish there wasn't a shortage, so that you could just drive up and refuel without any problems.
Well, of course, the price has jumped up a bit, and I think that's a lot.
The most effective sanctions against Russia are the actions of our armed forces. First and foremost, their precise strikes on oil refineries and strategic facilities, which really hit the Kremlin's economy. That's why I urge everyone to support the armed forces of Ukraine. And if you can't support them financially, just write them words of encouragement in the comments. I know they're watching us. While Russian oil refineries are burning and there's an increasing shortage of gasoline in Russia, the Kremlin is being forced to ramp up exports. Since the beginning of August, Ukraine has carried out at least 28 attacks on Russian oil refineries, more than in the first 7 months of 2025. This is reported by Bloomberg. Domestic fuel production in Russia is falling. The key ports of Primorsk, Ust-Luga and Novosibirsk are already operating almost at the limit of their loading capacity. And tankers are recording an increase in export flows by 435,000 barrels per day. Planned oil refining at Russian refineries in October dropped to 4.86 million barrels per day, which is 484,000 less than in July.
The European Union continues to work on the 19th package of sanctions against Russia. The measures will most likely include blacklisting more than 100 additional vessels and targeting refineries, traders and petrochemical companies in third countries, including China.
And that's not all. Belarus is actively helping Russia cope with the fuel crisis by increasing its shipments of gasoline from its refineries to Russia by 40%. This was reported by Reuters. In September 2025, Alexander Lukashenko's regime supplied 49,000 tons of gasoline daily to Russia's domestic market. In addition, more than 33,000 tons of diesel fuel were sold over the course of the month. Well, what can I say? I definitely like this kind of news. So you over there in Russia, don't get too comfortable. Time goes by, but nothing changes in the Kremlin's rhetoric. Their war is going according to plan. That's what Putin himself said on his birthday.
The crucial decisions made in February of 2022 were indeed correct and exceptionally timely. At the present moment, the strategic initiative remains entirely and firmly with the armed forces of the Russian Federation. Our common and vital task remains precisely the same as before. We must ensure the unconditional fulfillment of all the goals, the achievement of all the objectives set before the troops during the special military operation. Let's get to work and see how we are moving toward this goal.
I can't even count how many times we've already heard this according to plan. And the most interesting thing is that no one actually knows what this plan is. It seems not even Putin does.
Well, everything is going according to plan. Every day, they move strictly according to the plan. The special military operation is proceeding strictly on schedule according to plan. All assigned tasks are being successfully accomplished.
And since everything is going according to plan, according to Putin, the war must continue, especially if there are such successes.
At present, the strategic initiative remains entirely with the armed forces of the Russian Federation. This year we have liberated almost 5,000 square kilometers of territory, 4,900 and 212 settlements.
We have never doubted Russia's willingness to wage war. It's just a pity that the world was willing to accept the Kremlin's theatrical performance as reality. But now, after Putin's statement about his intention to continue the war, the Russian Foreign Ministry claims that the possibility of reaching an agreement with Ukraine has long been exhausted.
Unfortunately, we have to state that the strong and undeniable momentum that had been building in favor of reaching a comprehensive agreement, largely thanks to the diligent and persistent efforts of both the staunch opponents and the fervent supporters of fighting to the very last Ukrainian, primarily and most notably among the European nations and their respective leaders, has regrettably been largely and significantly depleted over time. That is the result. This is the result of the destructive actions, primarily by Europeans, which we speak about openly and directly.
How unexpected. So that's it? No negotiations at all? Place your bets. When will Russia want to return to the negotiating table? Reading the comments under previous episodes, I see that many of our viewers are from Kazakhstan, Moldova, Europe, and even the USA. We Ukrainians are very grateful to you for your support and proud that we have such reasonable viewers. Let us know in the comments under this episode as well where you are watching us from and whether people in your country support our fight against the empire of evil. I always enjoy reading your comments. And for now we continue. What comes next is the most interesting part. Russian propagandists have actively started defending the advantage of cavalry in the war against Ukraine. We will tell you about the outrageous statements that have been poured into the ears of ordinary Russian TV viewers in recent days.
Everything new is just well-forgotten old. Apparently, that's what the representatives of Russian propaganda thought, and they began to claim that success on the front lines now can be ensured by cavalry.
They used horses in order to cross those 15 kilometers, the so-called kill zone. And first of all, it takes incredible training to use a horse in the conditions that currently exist on the line of contact. These are combat operations. There are a huge number of explosions and FPV drones are being used.
Russian propagandists are promoting the idea of using hoofed animals on the front line. Horses can easily escape from drones, cross kill zones, and even mines don't go off under them, since the animals can sense them.
What's the connection between metal and a horse? I'll explain.
That is, the mines don't go off, the mines that are triggered by metal near the line of contact when you cross those last, roughly speaking, 5 kilometers. So that later you can dismount and start making some kind of advance. Of course, with a horse you can cover these distances. The fighter really won't get tired.
Cavalry is also being actively promoted on Russia Today. According to war correspondent Pegov, assault troops are being trained in horseback riding. Horses are a game changer on the battlefield.
Horses, as we know, are much more sensitive than people. Thanks to their natural instincts, a horse, for example, won't step on a magnetic mine with its hoof. In addition, it navigates perfectly and can see in the dark. A horse can cover the crucial stretches of ground from our positions to the enemy's trenches faster than any other means of transport. The terrain of Donbass allows it to chart a route straight ahead without any roads. So I'm confident, in the near future we will witness the historic return of Russian cavalry to the ranks. Semyon Pegov, war correspondent, Russia Today.
And here is a recent video that shows just how effective the Russian cavalry is. I feel sorry for the horse, but as for the occupier... The chairwoman of the Federation Council, Valentina Matvienko, proposed that unemployed Russians should pay an annual so-called insurance fee of 45,000 rubles to the budget. She doesn't really care that in the great and mighty country there might simply be no jobs.
Pensioners, our children, they are sacred to us, people with disabilities, people with health limitations, no questions there. But when young, healthy people of working age aren't working anywhere, first of all, that's shadow employment. Or they just don't want to work, then the question is, what income or sources are they living off of? So, I have a suggestion. A healthy person can pay 45,000 a year.
How? As they say, let's take a stand against freeloaders. And if you have no money at all, you can sign a contract and go to the front. In Russia, there's supposedly no mobilization at all. Well, that's what they say on TV, but electronic draft notices are being sent out more and more often.
Here's a funny story. Because my salary was delayed, I took out a microloan. I clicked to consent to the processing of personal data at 2:50. And at 2:52, I got a notification from the government services portal and a draft notice. Please warn people in the channel that under no circumstances should conscripts fill out anything like this. It arrived, literally right away.
And this isn't an isolated case. The Human Rights Project Go to the Woods reported a second such case in 2 days.
I just checked my credit score on the credit history website where you had to log in through the government services portal. Then I applied for a loan at T-Bank. And then a bump notification from Moscow, an electronic draft notice.
The publication confirming the identities of the new conscripts has verified this, and it looks like this story will only keep spreading across Russia.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Meanwhile, Russian war correspondent Romanov writes about the enormous losses Russia is suffering in the so-called special military operation.
At the same time, he himself states that he will not go to the front, as the chances of surviving the assaults are almost zero.
According to him, the life expectancy of a Russian assault soldier is only 12 days.
Russian war correspondent Romanov spoke quite candidly about the heavy losses and the lack of rights for soldiers in the Russian army. And in fact,
he urged Russians not to sign contracts with the Ministry of Defense and not to go to the so-called special military operation.
He wrote that there are enormous losses in the Russian army, that Russian soldiers are simply used as expendable material, and that the life expectancy of an assault soldier at the front is only 12 days.
So experts' attention, here is the question.
Romanov, why haven't you signed a contract yet?
They're offering 6 and potentially even 8 million. Because if I sign a contract, they'll send me to the assault units.
The average life cycle of an assault soldier is 12 days.
Well, what can I say?
I'm sure that everyone will eventually see the truth.
It's only a matter of time.
Like if you agree?
We know the faces of these women. This is how Putin refers to his daughters.
Maria Vorontsova and Ekaterina Tikhonova.
There is also another child of the Russian dictator, his illegitimate daughter, Elizaveta Rozova. But today we're not talking about that, but about Putin's heirs, his sons, born from his long-term relationship with gymnast Alina Kabaeva. Previously, Russian opposition media reported on the lives and upbringing of the boys, Ivan and Vladimir, who are believed to be 10 and 6 years old.
Putin and Kabaeva spend a significant amount of time with their 2 sons at the president's Valdai residence.
According to reports, a separate wooden palace, a spa center, a children's recreation area, and a large park have been built there for Kabaeva, her heirs, and their staff.
Why am I bringing this up?
Those same Russian media outlets have published photos of the dictator's sons for the first time.
These photos come from fake documents for the children who use the cover surname Spiridonov.
Do you see the resemblance between Putin and Kabayeva? We do.
Share your thoughts in the comments.
It was immediately clear that Russian drones flying into Europe were not just meant to scare the West.
And now we have yet another confirmation of this. The Belgian company Thales, one of the largest European air defense manufacturers, reports that unidentified drones are flying over its secret factories more and more frequently.
We are concerned about these incidents, which are happening at a time when the company is aiming to double its production capacity for both unguided and laser-guided FZ-275-70 rockets to 100,000 over the next few years.
But what's even more interesting is something else.
This same company manufactures mini-missiles that, according to Business Insider, Ukraine is already using to shoot down Russian Shahed drones.
The new FZ-123 warhead is equipped with thousands of tiny steel balls that are propelled by 2 pounds of explosives.
When the warhead detonates, the balls scatter over an area about 24 meters in diameter, destroying a drone or a swarm of them, much like pellets spread out from a shotgun blast.
Depending on the missile's flight range, the steel balls can spread even wider.
Coincidence?
I don't think so.
Russia is actively preparing for a real war with the North Atlantic Alliance.
Next, we'll talk about how this covert preparation is progressing and when this war might begin.
Watch the report for more details.
From fakes to provocations, Moscow is up to its old tricks again.
A factory of lies, provocations, and intimidation.
The Russian Federation is accelerating the phase of information and psychological preparation, the so-called Phase Zero, in its campaign to prepare for a possible war with NATO.
Russia has entered the first phase of preparation, Phase Zero, to transition to a higher level of warfare than the one it is currently engaged in. For example, a future NATO-Russia war, according to analysts from the Institute for the Study of War.
Since the fall of 2025, Muscovy has sharply intensified its operations.
From drone incursions into NATO countries' airspace to false statements by the Foreign Intelligence Service about alleged planned attacks in Europe.
The latest accusation is against the United Kingdom.
Supposedly, London is planning attacks by pro-Ukrainian Russians on military and civilian vessels.
The statement by Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service on October 6th follows similar false claims by the SVR regarding European countries such as Poland, Moldova, and Serbia.
And in recent weeks, the SVR has begun making such statements more frequently, which indicates a new pattern of coordinated actions, analysts at the Institute for the Study of War write.
These actions are not spontaneous.
This is a carefully constructed strategy based on the experience of 2014 and 2022, when the Kremlin used disinformation as a form of preparatory artillery before the full-scale invasion of Ukraine.
Meanwhile, the alliance is stepping up its monitoring of Russian information and psychological operations, recording a surge in troll and fake network activity.
The campaigns are especially noticeable in Poland, Germany, Slovakia, and the Baltic states.
It is precisely there that Moscow is trying to provoke war fatigue and distrust in allied commitments.
Under the guise of alternative opinions and anti-globalist movements, the Kremlin is building a network of loyal speakers, bloggers, and pseudo-experts.
Their task is to implant the idea that NATO is supposedly provoking Russia, that the West is tired of Ukraine, and that a new war is inevitable.
In addition, rumors about mobilization and threats of nuclear weapons use are being spread in Western countries. The fact that Putin plans to go further, he said this back in December 2021, that his goal is not only Ukraine, but also Eastern Europe and the Arctic region.
This rhetoric is not just propaganda, but a tool of pressure.
Moscow is testing the resilience of Western societies, the level of fear, and their readiness to respond.
The louder the threat is discussed, the less people believe in it.
And the easier it will be to deliver a real blow. Whether political, economic, or military.
Everything happening now is pressure on the European Union, on our European partners, to make President Zelensky more accommodating, to get him to agree to the terms of peace proposed by the Russian Federation.
2 or 4 regions and so on. All these drones on EU territory and so forth.
It's a provocation, that's absolutely true.
but these are indeed persistent attempts to put significant pressure on various European countries, and more broadly, on the entire European Union, so that they too become somewhat more accommodating, and perhaps even more flexible in their ongoing relations with the Russian Federation. After all, the numerous provocations emanating from Russia have demonstrably not stopped the continuous flow of vital Russian natural gas.
Liquefied Russian gas, LNG, which is going to Belgium, the Netherlands, France, Spain.
After all, none of these countries has actually declared we are stopping purchases of Russian gas.
All of this continues. That's why I don't believe in war. For now, one thing is clear. The Kremlin is testing the waters.
But no one knows what will happen tomorrow.
These actions could easily turn into real strikes.
Phase 0 is not a direct attack, but psychological preparation for one.
Its goal is to destabilize the information space, to sow panic, distrust, and a sense of the inevitability of a new war.
Right now, the future of the entire continent depends on the reaction of Western politicians.
Meanwhile, Slovakia is making a 180-degree turn.
The country's Ministry of Defense has announced a new package of military aid to Ukraine. And this is happening at a time when relations between Kyiv and Bratislava are colder than ever.
And Prime Minister Fico has repeatedly been caught using pro-Russian rhetoric.
So what is happening in the halls of power in Slovakia?
And what benefit can Ukraine gain from these new trends?
Our goal is to end the war as soon as possible so that Slavs stop killing each other.
The war could have ended 3 months after it began.
He is known for his harsh anti-Ukrainian statements and openly pro-Russian rhetoric.
There are no moral, historical, or legal reasons why Slovakia should be drawn into the war.
Right now, Fico is trying to find a balance between vetoing and providing support.
Still, he is trying to maintain a more balanced position.
At the same time, yes, as was said absolutely correctly, it is preferable to sit on several chairs at once.
And as long as it is possible to delay giving up Russian resources, that's how long they will delay.
A country that has repeatedly threatened not to vote for EU financial aid packages for Ukraine is now once again acting as a partner, because it knows the value.
Slovakia will try to keep balancing, considering that they still
continue to buy and transit Russian energy resources both for themselves and for others.
They will try to maintain a balance. They will not transfer military equipment, their own equipment, to Ukraine as part of such military aid packages.
But at the same time, the fact that Slovakia's position has already evolved to the point where they themselves are ready for such a gesture.
A gesture of goodwill to show that they are ready to help Ukraine, even in humanitarian matters, even in demining efforts.
This is actually already a good step forward.
Slovakia will provide Ukraine with equipment for demining and evacuation.
This was announced by Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal.
The package will include not only Bazena vehicles,
Legendary armored vehicles capable in just a matter of minutes
to clear mines, but also engineering and construction equipment, transport, demining systems, and medical evacuation means.
During the meeting, he thanked his Slovak colleague for the assistance that is saving Ukrainian lives.
We feel Slovakia's support on our path to achieving a just and lasting peace.
Slovak Defense Minister Robert Kaliňák confirmed that Slovakia is not stopping at what has been achieved.
Fico thought that Europe would be pleased and Moscow wouldn't be too offended. Slovakia's policy, much like Hungary's, for example, is quite situational.
And depending on the set of circumstances that arise, decisions are made accordingly.
But despite this, the assistance is very important for Ukraine.
Kaliňák noted that they are currently working on new joint projects between Ukrainian and Slovak companies.
There is a significant increase in the production of artillery ammunition and indirect fire systems to strengthen defense cooperation with Ukraine.
Notably, the previous 13th package of military aid to Ukraine was provided back in February 2022.
Bratislava has managed to object to allocating funds to Kyiv at least 3 times.
First in October 2023, then in January and March 2025.
Right after Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico visited Moscow.
He stated that Slovakia would not support Ukraine.
The Slovak Republic will not support Ukraine either financially or militarily to continue the war.
If others choose to do so, we will respect that.
Each of these pauses played into the Kremlin's hands.
And our defenders on the front lines were left without crucial support on the battlefield.
Support that could have helped preserve territory from the Moscow enemy.
Fico explained this in different ways.
One time he said the focus should be on internal problems. Another time that the principles of support needed to be reconsidered.
Fico's government also rejected a 40 million euro aid package, reducing military support to only humanitarian and non-lethal assistance.
We can see that Slovakia is now trying, let's say, to take a neutral stance towards Ukraine.
The Minister of Defense wants to send a political signal, not only to Kyiv, but also to Brussels, that Slovakia is ready to pursue a more balanced policy, rather than, let's say, an anti-Ukrainian or anti-European one.
Fico's wavering between European integration and a pro-Russian tilt will lead to nothing good.
This is classic realpolitik, absolutely.
We are seeing this now from Prime Minister Fico of Slovakia, and most likely this will continue to be the main line of Slovakia's policy.
The people of Slovakia have taken to the streets more than once, because after 2 years they realized they do not agree with their Prime Minister's pro-Russian policy, a Prime Minister who is not averse to shaking the hand of the Kremlin dictator who unleashed the war.
However, the current aid package for Kyiv shows that the pragmatists in Bratislava see that helping Kyiv today is more beneficial and promising than helping Moscow.
The European Union plans to allocate 140 billion euros to Ukraine from frozen Russian assets.
This is almost as much as the country has received from international donors since the start of the full-scale war.
Brussels is now looking for a legal formula to transfer the money without violating international law.
The Financial Times writes that we are talking about 140 billion euros out of approximately 190 billion in Russian state assets that were frozen after Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
In 2022,
At first, many Western countries, including the US, Germany, and Belgium, hesitated to use these funds due to concerns about legal and financial consequences.
In the end, Berlin and other Western capitals changed their position.
It was German Chancellor Friedrich Merz who proposed using 140 billion euros as a loan to arm Ukraine.
But Belgian Prime Minister Bart de Wever asked the other 26 EU countries to take on the legal and financial risks associated with the loan.
This position drew criticism in other capitals. For 3 years, Belgium insisted that Euroclear was Belgian, and so were the profits.
But now, when it wants to share the risks, it claims that Euroclear is European. The point is that since 2022, Belgium has received 3.6 billion euros in taxes from the income generated by Russian assets and guaranteed that this money would go to support Kyiv.
But Belgium kept 1 billion euros as a reserve for risks.
and this has drawn criticism within the EU, especially considering that Belgium's military support for Ukraine lags behind that of Denmark, Sweden, and Germany.
What do you think is really behind Belgium's cautious stance?
Share your thoughts in the comments.
And finally, let's talk about how Kremlin disinformation works.
A citizen of Kazakhstan discovered herself in a Russian TV propaganda segment where she was presented as a Ukrainian.
See for yourself.
This is sensational.
I just can't comment on this without swearing.
Yesterday I left myself, my dear, when I saw myself.
Please watch the video carefully until the end, and then I'll comment further.
Secondly, according to the World Bank, almost 30% of Ukrainians live in poverty.
People even have to save on food.
Ukrainians love salo, cured pork fat.
Salo has become as expensive as gold.
I'm so fed up with all of this.
250.
Can you imagine?
For this,
250.
Potatoes, 2 pears, and a bunch of green onions.
I just can't even...
The woman is outraged by the blatant lies of the Russians.
After all, she is a native citizen of Kazakhstan, not Ukraine.
She says that she filmed that video about her own country, not about Ukraine.
Ren TV's producers took my video, put it in their program, and labeled me as a citizen of Ukraine.
I've lived in Kazakhstan for 49 years, and I am a citizen of Kazakhstan.
How on earth did I suddenly become a citizen of Ukraine?
And so they listed the prices for groceries in hryvnias, not in our Kazakhstani tenge.
I want to show just how much deception and lies are everywhere around us.
Please share this video as much as possible so that more people can see how the media is feeding us lies and misleading people by showing falsehoods.
Well, honestly, I'm not surprised.
It's all in the Russian style.
Nothing but lies and manipulation.
What do you think of our news?
Write to us about what we should change to become better.
We will definitely take it into account.
In the meantime, please like this video to support what we do.
And be sure to subscribe to our channel Ukraine Today so you don't miss the next episodes.
See you!